That was Botanical Week, and I believe I'm still Chris.
I'm still Christy.
And this is the Washing Up, and we need someone to unpack this. We, especially given the last challenge was a 3-tiered cake.
Now, who do we know that's baked one of those things?
I think we know someone who's done that maybe at a finale.
Maybe they won with it.
Let's find out.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
Maybe Maybelline, or maybe it's Olivia. Going.
Hi. So roses are red, violets are blue.
Apparently. And
cakes are sweet and they can fuck that up too. Oh, sorry.
I was hoping you would finish that for me, Christy, because I hadn't thought of the end. So, yeah. Hi, guys.
To be honest, as she was saying it, don't think she thought of the ending either.
No.
Perfect. So that was something. I mean, Botanical Week. Probably glad you weren't necessarily hit with that one.
Well, I think you can have a lot of fun with the whole concept of botanicals, but it's all about how you interpret the brief, I suppose, more than anything. You can go a lot of places.
Yeah, there's herbs to pumpkin.
Well, that was the line they used at the start, the line that Tom used, which scared the life out of me, which was, anything that grows goes.
I'm just expecting a special plate of brownies to be served up.
Selassie. Let's face it, Selassie.
Anything that grows, puppies, kittens.
Yeah, and that was what worried me.
Babies.
Preschoolers.
How are we going here? Because this could be really scary. And remember, Tom is apparently king of the flavours, although we'll come back to that point. Because, now, Botanical Week began with a citrus meringue, not a lemon meringue, a citrus meringue. And you could go with any form of citrus that you chose.
So, Olivia, what kind of citrus could you put in a meringue like that? What have we got to choose from?
Well, obviously, first and foremost is lemon, and that's your traditional, and that would be far too easy, so you couldn't possibly do that on Bake Off. If you were Fiona, you would definitely do yuzu. That was the first thing that came to my mind was Fiona Sweary Canary would smash this bake with yuzu, and if you had Maggie Beer and Matt Moran, they would just lose their shizzle over a yuzu meringue pie. And you could... So
is that basically it? Like anything that's kind of similar to an orange or a lemon? Like, could you use orange? Would that be nice enough or not?
Well, orange is a citrus.
Orange is a citrus.
So you could, by the very definition of the word citrus.
But isn't kiwis, aren't they also citrus? Because you can use them to ceviche stuff. Ceviche, not ceviche. It's like...
And after that glitch, I think the most important question is orange. Would that work?
Orange would totally work, although blood orange would be better.
Yeah, what about kiwi? Could you use kiwi? Because technically that's kind of an acidic, citrusy taste.
Well, I don't know if kiwi qualifies as a citrus, but if it does...
I'm not claiming it.
So what's Liv saying? She's more important.
Okay.
No. I just don't know if kiwi qualifies as a citrus, but if it does, you could. But kiwi flavour is notoriously hard to use, so I wouldn't. But being in the UK, someone should have done kumquat.
See, there's lots of different things. Or there's like grapefruit. You could have done like a ruby.
Yeah,
meringue.
Pink, like a ruby grapefruit, although grapefruit's hard flavour as well. But, yeah, a blood orange curd would have been rocking. If you can get it. Depends on the season. I'm not really totally au fait with UK seasons.
I still think Sweary Canary's flavours would be
yuzu. Man, that's like the king of all citrus. It's like all citrus combined into one. Why wouldn't you?
Perfect. I will make it with all the citrus.
And what I loved was that Botanical Week was a great week for Jane to tell us several times, I'm a horticulturist. And just consistently remind us that she works with flowers a lot, which, as we saw in when we get to the showstopper, didn't really help. But we'll start off, of course, at the beginning, and
it's a very good place to start.
It is a very good place to start.
When you see
Liesel's not on.
Liesel.
That's totally a Liesel line.
Now, Rav realised, you could tell that Rav realised he was in a bit of trouble going into this week, because Rav opened the week by using tequila. And as we've said many times on this podcast, when in doubt with Mary Berry, get a drunk.
Maybe you should always start your night with tequila.
So I love that he started with tequila and then moved to, and I'm going to serve it with a mojito. So we're going to serve booze with booze.
No, wasn't it a margarita?
I don't know. It was some form of alcohol. And I got a photo. I'll put up on the Twitter account, which is Mary Berry's face when he said, "I'm using tequila." Ooh. It's a combination of that looks really good and I'm sort of a bit worried about this.
I'm scared. Although in Rav's defense, if you've ever watched any Great British Bake Off, it doesn't take long to watch Mary Berry get really excited over booze. So, if you're a proper fan and you've ever watched it and then you go on the show, why wouldn't you serve her booze?
Well, I would have. Every week, when someone's, it feels like their bake's a bit weak or it's a bit in trouble because suddenly they're pouring booze.
You just add booze.
I mean, we get a call.
You see this like rattling out the back as the alcohol trolley gets.
I mean, we get a call back later on. I can't remember who it is. We'll go through it later on, but we get a call back later on because someone goes back and uses Kirsch. And it's not the first time we've seen Kirsch this series.
No.
I mean, let's just go to the bar. What hasn't Mary drunk today? And I thought the Selassie's shirt, by the way, we have to, because we talked about Swery Canary's jumper game being on point.
Oh, his shirt was on point.
I think he got that in a 2-for-1 deal with Jane.
Jane's looked like she'd gone to a Ken Doan shop.
No, Selassie's shirt was cool, man. And plus, it made him look really muscly.
He wore it well, and that was really. And then that was followed up then when they're talking about his shirt and how good he looks in his shirt, and then it's followed up with the sharp edge kisses line. With Mary looking at Mel and going, "Haven't you ever had sharp edge kisses?"
Sure, Sue's had some sharp edged kisses.
I have never had a sharp edged kiss, but if it was Selassie's, I'd be cool.
And again, Selassie, and it's a theme of the episode, and let's face it, a theme of the series. Does anything worry this man?
No.
Nothing. Like when we get to the end and he's in a lot of trouble with the showstopper and he's just sitting there and he goes, "I don't really know what I'm doing here." Anyway.
Yeah, I could see Donald Trump rocking up on his door threatening to deport him and his whole family. He's just like, okay.
Yeah, dude, I'll get to it,
Get on the bike. Now,
I'm busy right now, but, a bit later maybe.
Technical question number 2, given we have, someone who somewhat knows what they're doing as opposed to us.
She might have
a serious amateur, yeah.
Yeah, it's a serious amateur. Italian versus French versus Swiss meringue. Is this a debate you ever thought you'd hear on television?
Well, we actually, in my season of Bake Off, we talked about Italian versus Swiss a lot because no one does French because it's often grainy unless you're very, very patient. I am a hardcore Swiss meringue girl because I think it is totally foolproof. And say, for instance, Swery Canary, and I'm pretty sure Mon as well are hardcore Italian meringue girls. Well, Mon, of course, she's going to be an Italian meringue girl.
That would make sense.
Swery Canary could fall either way.
Yeah. I'm just too lazy to make a sugar syrup first for an Italian meringue. But I think Swiss meringue is literally foolproof. So I'm with Jane. Jane talked about Swiss meringue, and I am totally 100% with Jane. Swiss meringue all the way. That's all I ever do.
And I think the other benefit there too was, Mary was delighted when Jane said Swiss meringue is about baking it.
Well, the thing is, right, if you want to get Mary very excited, you mention like booze and you want to see her rant, you say, "I'm going to blowtorch that meringue."
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God.
She was very upset about it. But old school meringue pies, they are meringue baked in the oven. And she's old school.
But she wasn't even slightly miffed or, I don't know if you should do that. She was visibly angry when they come back. She was raging. And normally they just go do the little and they walk away, or I don't know if you should do that. They actually had to cut to Mary Berry while she turned around to Paul Hollywood and went, I'm not in. This is ridiculous. They should be baking these meringues. I don't like the blowtorching one little bit.
Gesticulation as well on her arms. It was quite emphatic. Like
she was flailing.
She was flailing, literally.
She was cranky, man.
Yeah,
she was.
And if I'd seen that face, I would have been going, I might switch from the blowtorch and stick my meringue in the oven.
In the oven. It's in the oven, Mary. It's in the oven. Don't kill me. Don't kill me, Mary. It's in the oven. And yeah, but that was interesting. And they were all debating. And then like Benjamina's standing there going, I think that going there. No. I think blowtorching gives you more control. Blowtorching gives you more control. So
no, it's just more fun.
No, and
it's totally fun to blowtorch meringue.
But she's like, well, the blowtorching gives you a lot more control over it. Meanwhile, Mary Berry is at this point. I think I was watching it, and I just got this image of Mary Berry at the side of a tent kicking a cat. You know, she's like, there's a cat, and Mary's like playing with this cat, and Benjamina goes, you know what? No, blowtorching, it gives you more control. And Mary's just doing a whack, and this cat's gone flying out of the tent because she was that enraged. Why would you keep doing that?
Mary wanted crispy meringue, and I just don't think that you can get that from a blowtorch.
No, and that's the point. And
she was not happy. She was like thinking at the start of the bake, I'm going to eat some crispy meringue.
Yes.
And she just got progressively more disappointed as she talked to everybody.
It was sadness.
Something else I heard, which was like when they cut to Paul and Mary going around talking to everyone, it was a shit ton of rain bucketing down. Like, did you hear it? Like just blah, 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 out the back.
Well, they are in the UK, so it probably happens like every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So can like humidity affect meringue, or is it not?
Well, I think yes. It's going to probably make it sweat because meringue's just egg whites and sugar predominantly. Well, not even predominantly. It is egg whites and sugar. And all of that sugar in the humidity is going to do its little thing. And when it's really humid, your meringue can sweat. So especially if you don't mix it enough, if you don't do the right things to it, it's going to sweat like I do at yoga. But well, in hot yoga anyway. But,
the tent is actually a Bikram room.
It's a Bikram
meringue room.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I felt really sorry for them in their rain tent trying to do meringue. But if they mixed it properly and started it slow and built up there's some scientific thing where you build up the proteins, you start slow and, go for a long time.
Like weightlifting in there. You're like feeding them protein.
Yeah.
And can I point out, by the way, that normally if you're going to test that and you want to really be sure that you've done it properly, you get the bowl and tip it over your own head to make sure that the meringues don't move. No. Selassie tips it over Benjamina's head, which I thought was touching and charming.
As all good gentlemen do.
I'm not testing it over my head. Here, you just dangles it over her head. And then when Benjamina made the comment about when you're talking about how thick the base was, she goes, "How thick is it, Benjamina?" And she goes, "It's possibly as thick as Selassie's." At which point, Selassie has just started giggling like a 5-year-old. So those two, the interplay between those two is hilarious. I love it. It's one of the highlights of the series because we get Selassie sort of in peak Selassie.
Yes, indeed. So we should move on to the technical, shouldn't we?
We really should. Back again, and we've gone to the tin can and the piece of string method. So Liv is back, but this time on the phone.
Mrs. Bumblegood.
I'd like to get down now. So we were about to move on when the internet decided to have a heart attack. But we hadn't really finished yet because there were a few things. We talked about Mary Berry and hating everybody and wanting to kill them.
And animal abuse.
My two last points that I had out of the first challenge was, first of all, I thought Candace's actually didn't look too bad until she swirled it.
Oh, my husband was like, "What is that?" But her meringue was probably okay until she put like radioactive green into it.
But I thought that even if she'd left it, just with the peaks, she might have been okay. But then when she swallowed it, it looked like Kermit had been through a blender.
No, what she should have done is got some extra meringue and dyed it purple and just put this band of purple along and put these eyes in it and said, look, it's a Ninja Turtle. It's fine. It's Donatello.
Leonardo.
Yeah.
Oh, no, purple's Donatello.
Yeah. People come for the baking talk. They stay for the Ninja Turtles.
Oh, you know what I saw in the...
To make up for her lack of lipstick this week.
I think that threw her off.
Oh.
Yeah, she didn't have her lipstick on, so she had to put all the colour into her meringue.
Into a meringue instead.
She was going to use the... Oh, she lost all of her lipsticks. It was going to be green lipstick, and she's like...
She dropped it into it.
It drops into the meringue.
It's like, oh no, we'll pretend I meant that.
Yeah, there goes my good Mac.
And the last one that I wanted to bring up before we move on was... the last one that I wanted to bring up before we moved on was... the similar flavours thing.
You put the lime in the coconut.
You put the lime and the coconut in everything, apparently.
I think they just have midnight margaritas going on out the back, so there's a perpetual stock of lime.
It just seemed like there's been lime and coconut every week, no matter what the challenge is. Someone's gone, lime and coconut. And I understand that that's, a fairly common and good flavour. Yeah. But I don't get it.
Pretty hard to when you're told to do citrus. But then again, you kind of do have an idea of your signature and showstopper bakes coming up. So you could have maybe gone back and gone, well, I have to do citrus here, so maybe I should do something different elsewhere. I don't know. I'm a big fan of lime and coconut. I could put that in just about anything. But pretty tough when you're actually restricted to citrus. There is only so many citrus flavors. And you're stuck by seasonality as well, unless you want to import from China or something.
which I think actually, when you're talking about what's in your next bakes, which brings us up to the next bake, the technical, which is fougasse. Now,
fragua, as I was calling it. I see they're going, they're cooking fragua.
Now this brought up, because as people know, we've watched the series previously. This brought up one of our favourite things.
Tom, this is my favourite cinema snack.
Who takes bread into the cinema?
No. I used to work at the cinemas, right? Now, I worked at some kind of indie, funky cinemas in Sydney. Shout out to my Norton Street Palace mates. Anyway, the weird shit that people would bring in, because technically they weren't allowed to bring in food, but you're on Norton Street, there's all this amazing Italian food, well there was back then, and so people bringing in a little thing of lasagna, plates of stuff and whatever, and as long as they were respectful, we didn't mind them bringing shit in. But someone brought in a whole barbecue chicken once, just in the bag.
Lasagna too. This is amazing. I eat popcorn.
It's like they're inventing gold class before gold class was such a thing. Just,
I'm scared, yet I'm not. But I'm more scared by the idea that this is what Tom takes to the movies.
I didn't even know what fougasse is until I watched Bake Off.
But
takes it to the movies, and who doesn't eat popcorn in
that was
movies?
my first thought has he not heard of the discovery of popcorn?
Well, you know me, I had Scroggin at the movies a few times.
Yeah, that's actually true.
It does look like elven bread, like when you watch Lord of the Rings, the little elf bread that they have wrapped in leaves.
It was like there were a couple of them that sort of knew what it was. Cut to Tom, who's got this wide smile on his face going, I love it. I take it to the movies with me. And it's like, of course you do. The only way it could have been more accurate was if Andrew was the one who said that, because it would have gone along with his punting that he does it at the university and his all the dates. The dates in the glove box and all those sorts of things. That's the only way it would have made more sense. And I think you brought it up as well when they then cut to Paul and Mary talking about, what it is and how it was going to be for them to cook and make this. I think you brought up the fact that Paul and Mary sounded really sarcastic this week.
They're going, because that's going to be simple. And it's like, it's just this undertone of, I don't know if she's still angry about the meringues being like, she's just had it. She's like, you're all dead to me, but I'm contractually obliged to be here.
It kind of looks like focaccia with some splits in it, though. Like, I have to go and do some Googling on fugasse, and I think Mary Berry said fugasse, so I'm still not sure how you even say it. But I need to Google it and find out what it actually is. But it kind of looks like focaccia with holes in it.
Well, that was what Benjamina said, because when Benjamina was trying to work out how to cook it properly, and I mean, she came second in the challenge, but when Benjamina was trying to work it out, and all these people were putting, like, water in the oven or not, and she went, well, I treat it like it's a focaccia, and you wouldn't put water in the oven to make a focaccia. So I'm not going to put water in the oven to make this. And, like, that was good baking logic. And I liked that so far because, you know, not being nasty, but we haven't seen a lot of baking logic. We've seen people guessing, mostly Val. But...
No, but Benjamin is always kind of on point with that. So that girl looks like she knows what
she knows what she's doing.
Yeah. And she's had some great
but
base
how is it
possibly.
botanical? Botanical, so bogan. How is it botanical? Is it just because it's got some
herbs? Like, so herb bread, basically.
I was struggling to find the link in the brief this week.
They should have just made a herb bread.
I'm for saying that. It's so mean.
Yeah.
No, not mean. It's just, it's true. I mean, we commented, and again, you know, we wouldn't expect you to comment on it, but we commented on Burger Week, and we said that for Australia, we said that we really liked the flavours, and we thought everything looked amazing. But our question was, is a burger baking, and how much was the bread a component of it? Especially since they said that Jeremy had too much bread in a bun, which is the bread week.
As a baker doing burgers, it was like, whoa, we got to do burgers? Man, I got to make meat and stuff.
But yeah, I mean, putting herbs in it, does that really count as botanical? I mean, yeah, they're grown, and as we found out at the start of the night, we weren't really expecting to, but as Tom said, anything that grows goes. So...
Oh, but then again, it was supposed to be leaf-shaped, though, as well, wasn't it?
That's not really botanical, though. Like, I could make a pasta dish that's supposed to look like a tree.
Look, we're all missing the blatantly obvious question, which is, who the fuck came up with this idea? Like, what purpose does that particular bread make? Because you can't make a sandwich out of it. It's not exactly snack size.
I don't know, ask Tom.
What he does with it.
Apparently it's a movie snack.
It's like someone had been to Germany and they've gone, oh my God, I had this delicious bread snack and it wasn't like completely whole. It was like had holes in it and stuff, and they've tried to recreate it at home and voila. They just came up with this weird ass fugasse.
I'm still back at him taking it to the movies. I could understand a baguette. Like, I could get if it was a baguette, I could understand it. But I can't understand him taking this leaf-shaped thing with holes in it into the middle of the cinema to eat it.
I just think he's a really big Lord of the Rings fan, and it's not only that he takes this leaf-shaped bread,
maybe it's a home
cinema.
Cinema.
Yeah. He dresses up as Gandalf. Actually, no, he's more of a Pippin lookalike. So he dresses up as Pippin, and he goes and has second breakfast in his own cinema watching Lord of the Rings.
With
fugasse.
Fugasse of the Rings.
Although I can see smashing some fugasse just dipped in like olive oil or something that makes just tear off a nice crusty bit. And
yeah, but that'd be good, like sitting on a balcony or something with a glass of wine, but in the middle of the let's all go to the lobby part of the movies. I don't know. To get ourselves some snacks or baked goods.
Popcorn, people. Popcorn.
Exactly. Popcorn. Choc top.
Choc top.
You know.
Just, a bag of lollies. Oh, you know what the cutest thing is about when I was working in the cinemas, we were able to have free lollies. So when my little nephews came to visit us, they're very little back then, they're very big now, they'd come in and get free lollies. But when we take them to normal cinemas, they didn't realise that we had to pay for the lollies. So they just wandered up to the things and, like, my nephew basically, like, stole half a bag of lollies because I thought my sister had paid for it and she thought I'd paid for it. So he's just, we worked out later, no, neither of us had paid for it, and he got away with half a bag of lollies. So
except you just dobbed him in, so,
Yeah, that's
They're coming after him
they're
now.
coming after him now. No, I think 7
I thought
7
you'd
years
be
has
like
passed.
Marjorie. You used to send a check in the mail to the cinema people after when the stickies snuck the kids in.
Be a doll and don't cash this for another 7 years in honour of the agreement. So, as a result of the fact that Tom was the only one who knew what the hell he was doing with this, I've never seen him look that calm. However, Selassie just didn't give a shit. He's leaning against the bench at one point. He's looking at it going, you know what, it doesn't look right. And then he looks at the camera and goes, oh. And you're just like, love you, Selassie.
He's lying on his belly in front of the oven. Like, can you get any more relaxed watching you bake than just lying on your belly? You're not ready to get up and, oh my God, it's burning. I'm
Not ready to spring to the baking, are you?
I'm surprised you didn't pull out a bean bag and just
No.
grab a bowl of gas.
Now, as a baking challenge and a technical baking challenge, probably a good challenge. As a television challenge...
The slits were difficult.
Yeah, but as a television challenge, much of the challenge was spent watching them drink cups of tea. That was my issue with it as a television challenge. As a technical and as an ability challenge, I have no issue with it whatsoever because, there was clearly a lot to it and you had to work a lot of stuff out and process ingredients.
But you are also the person who likes watching that cutthroat kitchen.
What, they should have been running around in a canoe.
They should have been running around a canoe tied to each other.
Singing Beatles songs. I mean, that would have made sense. That would have made sense.
And only able to chop on top of their heads.
But it was just interesting just as a television challenge to watch it. And the other weird thing about it, obviously Tom crushed it and Benjamina did really well too. But why did they say, what I couldn't work out is why did they then say that Tom was in trouble? Because he won the technical quite easily. And then they went, all the boys are in trouble, even Tom.
Well, I think that was Paul's code for signature was really not good, dudes. But he did say, and they didn't really say it during judging, but he did say it at judges' table that it was really close. And looking at it, they kind of all looked...
They look the same.
Similar, apart from, some looked like the JJs and some were leaf-like.
And the other one, and the other part...
I'm stealing it from you.
I'm surprised.
You're having an impact here.
I am, I'm just spreading the vagina.
What I also thought was interesting, though, we talked about logic with Benjamina, but Andrew used logic too when he was trying to work out how to cut it, and he got it wrong. But
he said he got it right.
No, originally he was going to get it wrong because he went sequentially. If I was doing this as an engineer, it would mean straight line like that. And then he changed it. He goes, but I don't think that's what they mean. And he changed it. But originally Andrew was going to go straight down because he said in engineering that's what it means.
Yeah, and he should have just gone with his logic.
Yeah, did he not do that? I thought he got it right.
No, he got it right eventually. He said, but he changed it up. He said, logically, this is the way I'd see it. And then he went, but I think it's the other way, and cut it the other way. But when he was first discussing it, he went through his logical progression and went, when it's written sequentially in engineering, this is what we think it means. And this is what we accept it to mean. So again, vague instructions, yes, but almost bordering on incorrect instructions for how to cut it.
Oh, look, some people just see slits as slits and they don't consider which way they want to put their slits, so they just...
They don't take care of them, they don't handle them correctly?
They don't handle their slits correctly and you get weird looking for gas at the end of it. That's...
Nothing worse than we're looking for gas at the end of a mishandled slit. Anyway, Tom nailed it and Benjamin did okay. That's fine?
Yeah.
Yep. Away from the slits now. And on to the showstopper, which was a floral cake, a 3-tiered floral cake, or as some of us call it, Great Australian Bake Off finale.
Yeah, man, I'm having terrible night terror flashbacks.
Or you can see.
They're only in week 6.
Did you see when you were seeing Jane attempt that collar? Were you thinking, pineapple around the outside?
Dehydrated pineapple.
And Of all
It's
weeks,
a tough thing to do a 3-tier cake in 4 hours. I felt really bad for them.
but of all weeks, just quickly on Jane and that collar, of all weeks to try something.
Yeah, but I think she was inspired by her shirt. And seriously, what she should have done, noticing that how shit it was turning out, she should have just ripped off shreds of her shirt to wrap around the outside. You wouldn't have known the difference.
The side of the cake, by the time she was sort of done with it, looked like Pro Hart had thrown up.
Oh, Mr.
Oh, Mr. Hart, what a mess! But it was...
Well, my husband was watching it with me, and he said to me, I bet she did a beautiful collar at home when she was practicing.
Of course.
Because he knows, he knows Bake Off World. You practice at home and it's perfect, and then you go into the shed, and under the time pressure, it sometimes just doesn't go quite right.
Except, Jane has mentioned on previous bakes, I didn't bother to do this under time pressure. She frequently has mentioned she hasn't practiced at home.
Yeah, but a lot of people have done that. Like Nadia did that.
I'm not sure Selassie's ever tested a bake. Rav, definitely not.
He's tested things baked.
Actually, no, Rav has tested bakes, but notice how Rav always says this didn't work at home. So, why are we doing it, Rav? It didn't work at home. Why are you doing it again? It was a couple of interesting things that I noticed apart from Jane's sort of collar around her cake was Andrew went back to the booze philosophy with Kirsch. And the weirdest part for me was around, again, Tom. Now, Tom has been told week in, week out, you are the king of flavour. No one's quite sure why, but he's been told this. Until today when Paul suddenly goes, your flavours are always a bit out there. Hang on. You've spent the first 5 weeks telling him his flavours are amazing and he's the king of flavour, and by week 6, your flavours are a bit out there and bizarre. What changed?
Yeah, I didn't really get that either.
Especially with tea flavoured. I mean, that's not that out there. No. What was out there was it was a tea flavour and no matcha.
Well, tea's a pretty common flavour in desserts. You see it all the time.
Yeah.
Coffee, tea, exactly. You see it all the time.
Earl Grey brulee. Quite nice.
Yeah. It's really not uncommon at all. Well, but it's the same as Benjamina's going to do a naked cake.
Yeah.
And Mel is like, what the hell is a naked cake?
And Benjamin just starts unbuttoning her top.
How are they on a baking show and they don't know what a naked cake is?
But it was really... It was weird. I mean, the Tom thing was just weird. But
it worked. It worked for him.
Oh, it worked beautifully. His flavours actually worked. But...
his presentation was nice too.
But to call tea flavour an out there flavour, given this is the guy who last week in Danishes produced granola, breakfast granola Danish. I mean,
it's not like he farted into a cup and wanted to capture the essence of that to put in his cake.
I'm sure that's what Val baked at home. I'm not letting go of the Val thing, by the way.
No, you're not.
I'm not going away.
Granola, I can see those. Danish breakfast, granola, breakfast, put the two together.
Other people put bacon in theirs, Liv.
Yeah,
Other people put bacon in theirs.
See it.
Yeah, but you put it in your mouth and all the moisture is sucked out of it. So you like...
Yeah, so it's like you're eating dry wheat bix, and also it's sadness. And that's far more important if you're eating sadness. When Benjamina had bacon. So,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
If I had a choice between granola and bacon, I know what I would choose.
Exactly. It's
I would
bacon.
have added some chorizo just to really...
I would have added chorizo, but that's because I add chorizo to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next time I don't want it in my ice cream, all right?
I'll have it, that's fine.
Yeah.
And now Candace once again. Now, Andrew and Candace both use family recipes a hell of a lot. I'm actually starting to wonder if their families will have any, thing that
secrets
is
left.
just their secret recipe anymore. Because they just keep using them.
I wonder if her last name is Sanders and she comes and goes, I got this special chicken recipe from my great uncle.
There's 12 herbs and spices, don't you mean 11? That's why everyone gets it wrong. We've been telling you all it's 11 for years.
Yeah.
But
I love it when they do family recipes, though.
it's good. I mean, and as they said...
It's cool to see what other families do.
Like the fruit cake.
Well, the fruit cake was great. And as they said, they linked it back to the idea of this is why you bake in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is good. And sort of, that was the heart of, I've made fun of her a bit, but it was the heart of what Val was doing.
Yes.
Was baking traditional family recipes. They may not have been edible family recipes, but they were traditional family recipes, and that's the important point.
Who's your what's some of your favourite family recipes, Liv? Like,
I have 2 different biscuits that are super duper family favourites, and one of them, this is going to sound really stupid, but one of them is in Delicious Magazine this week.
Yeah, not going to sound stupid, it's going to sound fantastic, and well done on that.
Thanks. But yeah, and just really good old basic recipes for things like date loaf.
ooh.
And, you know, a really easy chocolate cake that is what Jane did today, where it's like an all-in-one cake. Gotta love all-in-one cakes. They're easy and they work. But yeah, I've got really super duper simple family recipes, but when you make them, everyone loves them.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
Turns out you have to know what you're doing to make them because they are so simple. But yeah, I love watching when everyone does family recipes. Although, can I just say, you do a 3-tier cake in 4 hours, and I actually know that's really, really hard. And Candice does 4.
and
Overachiever.
And they're all different.
exactly. And again, Candice with this philosophy of I'm going to do everything.
And all beautifully decorated as well. Like, they all looked like the season they represented.
But this is the weird thing. The weird part about Candice this year has been if you give her something easy, she flubs it and makes mistakes. Give her something ridiculously complicated,
She'll make it more
and
complicated.
she makes it more complicated, and then does it brilliantly. Like again, the pub, and like you only had to make a building. No, with all these other elements. No, she was going to do the floor and the pool table and
the people inside.
and the people and this you only had to do 3 tiers, and she went. If I only have to do 3 tiers, that might be too easy for me. I'll make it 4 and make it difficult, and nailed all 4.
Yeah.
Which was just incredible.
See, I reckon that's just certain briefs she was super interested in and she spent all of her time on. And then other briefs she was like, yeah, I don't really like that so much, and didn't practice it enough, maybe.
It's a bit like the year before with Flora, where...
Flora, we just want you to make a chocolate cake.
And what I'm going to do is, while I'm doing that, I'm going to make a whole tray of macarons to put on the side of it while we're doing this. And then I'm going to make a big tower out of gingerbread to sit the cake on top of as well. Flora, have you baked your cake yet? In a minute. I'm doing all the sides. Flora, you still don't have a cake yet? No, I'm building a house to put an oven in so I can bake the cake. And eventually that cost her eventually. I mean, we will see what happens in the upcoming weeks here with Candice. But she doesn't go to the Flora extent, but she does seem to go out of her way to make things more complicated.
But it looks like Liv is right. It looks like she was inspired and she was into it. So,
yeah, which was the plus side for her. Someone who wasn't into it, by the way, was Selassie.
Is that
However,
pipe cream?
However, what we did learn this week is that apparently botanicals are what Selassie can do, and his cakes were all really good. And more importantly, that piping.
Yeah.
Holy crap!
I think it's because he's got an affinity with things that glow.
Impressed with his piping.
Exactly.
Sorry, Kirsty.
No, that's all right.
Exactly, his piping was. I don't think anyone. If I could pick anyone in that tent who I thought was going to pipe, I would have picked Jane. Mm-hmm. That's who I would have picked beforehand, just because she's reliable, she's consistent, she makes a lot of this sort of stuff, and, she's a horticulturist, And, she didn't tell us that a million times. And...
But I find really
Selassie
weird.
just went, bang, I can do this.
Yeah. Like Jane's decoration choice, she chose not to put any flowers inside her cake. Fair enough. But then on the outside, there was no use of edible flowers or something that she might have an affinity with in the garden. Some crushed up snails or something. I don't know what. Gardeners do.
No.
Why haven't we entered you in the next series of Bake Off yet?
I'm too good.
Snail cake.
Jane made her own flowers though, and she was under time pressure, and what she produced in a rush. Was pretty cool, and I'm sure if she had lots of time they would have been 10 times more amazing. But she got in trouble from Paul and Mary for not putting any botanicals in her cake, even though it was orange flavoured, and the signature botanical was citrus, so I was a little bit confused there. But Selassie didn't put any botanicals, based on that sort of definition that Paul and Mary put on.
It was a very
Jane's
loose
cake.
definition.
What did he have? I mean, technically, anything that's a plant is a botanical. I mean, is it, like, if they said, look, if you can't find it in a shampoo, it's not a botanical. Like,
So anti-dandruff foam is technically botanical.
I've got this Selsun Blue
actually.
5.
But the three-tiered showstopper had to be floral.
You're right, and that was the thing. Was the brief, and I actually wrote that note down. Is it about flavour that's floral, or was it about the piping and presentation?
Yeah, and it was probably up to you in the brief, but Jane got in trouble because she only had orange flavour and no floral in her flavours, but Selassie didn't, and he had like carrot, strawberry and vanilla, lemon and poppy seed.
But she could have easily overcome that by getting some orange blossom syrup.
I think for me that that would have been good.
That would have been really good.
I think for me the issue was
orange blossom and almond cake is
yum.
I think the issue for me was, though, again, that collar, which was supposed to look like flowers.
Yeah.
Again, it looked a cross between Pro Heart and Jenny Key.
They had a love child,
It
and
was
that's what they
definitely
produced.
Pro Heart or maybe Jackson Pollock.
I thought Jackson Pollock too, but there was too much colour.
No, I know what happened. Homer Simpson came along with his chocolate makeup gun.
Yeah, Homer, you set it on a whore.
And a Rex barbecue and shoved like a beach umbrella in it.
And I think we then sort of come to the last two people we need to talk about in this, which was Andrew and Rav. Now Andrew said that the flavour should be subtle, and Mary Berry fired back with one of the most brutal lines I've heard her use this series, which was, "It's so subtle I can't find it."
She was really brutal, wasn't she?
All three of his tears.
Teary after. I felt really sad for him.
She ripped.
I felt like it was brutal, and it really affected him.
He came up, and I actually saw, like, the look on his face reminded me of my dog Leo when you're like, Leo, what have you done? And he, like, the ears go back and the eyes go wide, like, and the head tilts to the side, like, I'm sorry. And that was Andrew.
It was it was really sad. And look, Andrew was in a world of trouble at this point.
And pain.
And his cake looked really pretty.
He was in a world of trouble at this point. And then Rav came along and
went, Andrew, mate, you're saved.
Now Rav, I thought, went with a clever idea because of how he'd gone, which was one cake. I'm going to do one cake, and I'm just going to do one cake. Unfortunately, he missed out on the second part of that sentence, which should have been, and I'm going to do it well. Because if you do a single cake, you have to get every other part of that right.
Like Antonio, when he did, what was it? Was it a,
It was the three-tiered pie.
That's right.
And he did 3 tiers of cheesecake, and Matt Moran sort of was like, I don't know, I'm a bit disappointed that you didn't do different flavours. Or when I did 3-tier cake in the finale, I did the same cake. It was all coconut cake.
Yeah.
But I kind of,
accented the outsides and changed the flavour on the outside and presentation.
I syruped each cake in a different flavour. I did a different flavour buttercream in each one. But I did the same cake in each one. Because you've got to be smart. 4 hours for a 3-tier cake, man, it's tough. So Rav was actually smart, but you're right. If you're going to do one,
Get it right.
You're screwed if you get it wrong.
And Rav botched it completely. And I think Rav was paying the price a little bit as well for previous sins, because he's been really close.
And he's been last in technicals so many times.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, he was saved last week, as we said in last week's episode. It was almost like when they ate Val's one, they looked and went, as long as Rav's is edible, Val is gone and Rav is safe. And Rav's happened to be edible.
Because last week, it's all right, because he's saved by the Val. Like, it's saved by the Val.
I got it. Very funny, very satirical.
Very on point.
Very on point for the moment.
Although it was very cool to watch a dude pipe buttercream flowers.
Yeah, and I was highly impressed. The piping, and look, Tom got Star Baker this week, which was, one, fair, two, allowed Sue to make a Tom Baker joke, which is always welcome. And again, I thought Andrew was incredibly lucky this week because Rav botched a simple cake, and I think that's what sent Rav home. Probably fair that Rav went too.
Yeah,
You know,
it was
Val,
his time.
Val said last week, I've gone as far as I can go. And I think Rav went an extra week past where he could really go. I don't think Rav could have gone
Any
any further in the competition. I think he may have struggled past this week.
Yeah.
Now, before we finish up, there's one last thing that I'd like to sort of mention on here. And it's a note from our delightful friends over at the Washing Up. Over at the Cooling Rack. Well, we're the Washing Up, but don't mind me.
Right, Bucky boy.
Thanks for that. That's what I need. Don't mind me. It's really late. So, Afternoon Teal, which Tegan mentioned on the Cooling Rack, which is a really good cause supporting ovarian cancer, and there's plans afoot. Obviously, Tegan's mentioned there's plans for her to host one. They're looking for people to host morning or afternoon teal events. It's more afternoon teal now. So the website is afternoonteal.net.au. So get on board, have a look at that website. It's a really good cause. Again, it's Ovarian Cancer Australia. They're looking for people to host events, and I'm sure there's going to be more popping up through Tegan's feed especially, so feel free to check that out. Really good cause and very much worthwhile.
Exactly. It helps out all my sisters, CYSTERS, with polycystic ovarian syndrome, kind of more prone to getting ovarian cancer. So it's something that, it can happen to a woman in your life. So get out there and support it and host a tea. We might look at doing one. It'll have nothing cooked by us.
Or it will, and we'll have a bodgy back. Beautiful, we heard that.
Noted.
Done, noted. Do you mean just in general, or are we talking about for afternoon teal? Because either way, we're fine with that.
For a good cause.
For a good cause, well, we are a good cause. Yeah. No, afternoonteal.net.au, that's the address to go to. So please go and have a look at that and see what you can do, either donating or maybe looking to host an event. Get in touch with them. So, with that in mind,
we've got to remember to say, get out there and buy Delicious, because yours truly, not me, but Liv is featured.
Yay!
I'm on the cover. It's like a centimetre by centimetre picture, but I'm on the cover right next to Jamie Oliver.
Oh, you're a cover girl.
It goes Matt Preston, Jamie Oliver, Olivia McMahon, and I've decided if I ever have a son, I'm going to call him Preston Oliver McMahon.
There you go.
Wow, that's a very distinguished name.
It's a good thing then that's the order of the chefs, because that could have gone really bad.
No. Well, I probably should check with my husband as well, but
Why?
Just make sure you get the paperwork before he does.
Yeah, just sign it all first. Just sign that. Done.
Oh, we could change his name to Hootie McBoob. Tits McGee.
And it also might be the very last chance to get your applications in, people, for season 3 of Great Australian Bake Off, because I think auditions might be starting soon. So if you're going to do it now.
Yeah, I'd get your applications in pretty quickly. I mean, there's some great promo videos out there. There's a lovely one of Liv speaking and Fee eating cake. And she eats that cake like a professional too. So
looks like she's been around a lot of cake in her life.
Yeah. Swear a canary on point. And jumper game on point.
Jumper game on point, indeed.
There's also a really cool one of Jeremy calling all male bakers, which I particularly like. It's one of my favourites.
Yeah, we love Jezza. We've got to get Jezza on here. That'll be really fantastic.
Oh, yes.
We'd love to sing his theme to him, I think.
Jeremy's on the podcast talking to us. It's got to happen now. I've got the song ready.
We'll work on it.
Wait till he gets his new Harley so he can rev it in the background.
Oh.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Right, well, thank you again, Liv. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No
It's
problem.
always
Welcome.
so much fun to talk to you.
Ditto.
Anytime. All right, so again, I've been Chris.
I've been amazingly awesome and humble.
As has Liv. And we will talk to you all later.
Ciao.
Bye.